A very good evening and welcome to Economic Forum. My name is Love Mobanda. I hope I find you well. Economic Forum is a program that looks at various aspects of the economy, infrastructure, it could be banking, other aspects of finance, agriculture, mining, the commerce industry, indeed all things economic. To look at those things economic this evening, I have with me on the far right, Dr. CALLISTO, JOKONYA, an industrialist, and next to me is Dr. DAVISON, who is an economic analyst. Gentlemen, very good evening. Welcome to Economic Forum.
Thank you.
First, after the elections, what are the expectations of business, Dr. JOKONYA?
Yes, thank you. Firstly, we want to congratulate Zimbabwe that the elections went well, peacefully, and we now we are ready just to see a new government put into place. Now, as an industrialist, really our expectation is to make sure that Zimbabwe now really is open for business, and more activity are going to come into the industry. There's a possibility of opening up new manufacturing plants in this country, whereby we are going to look at value addition of all the natural resources that are mined and found in this country. We want also the issues of corruption fully addressed, and particularly those that have been identified or even investigated to know that they've committed some crimes in this country in terms of corruption. We want them picked up and be put before the courts in this country. We want also very strong dialogue, opening up, engaging with the international world so that our businesses can be able to attract loans internationally, or even be able to also buy raw materials on credit, like what we used to do in the past. We want also to open up new markets, confidence with investors. So we want to see even direct investment coming into the country as well. Of course, we also want to see the promises of our 20 billion in the mining industry coming to fruition as well. We want to begin to see. So creation of jobs as well is very key to us, and attracting more better skills, even attracting diasporans coming back to Zimbabwe and help build our own nation.
Dr. Gomo, it is said that capital is a coward and will not go away. It doesn't feel it's safe. We had all that nice build-up to the elections, peaceful. Everybody voted freely. But unfortunately, after the elections, we had the violence that broke out and the loss of lives. What impact does that have on the economy, on business?
Well, thank you, Lavma. I really just want to say this to you. If you live in this world like me, you will know that Zimbabwe is not far away from the rest of the nations. We have seen post-election violence in other countries, which has been far more brutal than what you saw the other day. We are not by any means condoning what happened, but the scale of some of these brutalities post-election in other countries, they defy description. The incident that took place was contained, albeit very controversially, as you know. I want to believe that the elections were observed by the bulk of the world, both from multilateral organizations, governments, and NGOs, and all of them endorsed this election outstandingly, and rightly so, because we've never had such a peaceful election. I do not want to believe that those hard-nosed investors who know this world very well are going to make decisions based on that isolated incident. I think they're looking at the total picture, the global picture. Remember, one of the things that is quite key is leadership. Is it possible that the president-elect has galvanized sufficient respect, support, and goodwill from the rest of the world? I want to believe so. Is he somebody they are willing to trust? I want to believe so. Do they think that he can lead this country in a direction that guarantees peace and prosperity in this country? I think so. Does the international business community believe that Zimbabwe has changed for the better? All indications are that as long as the president-elect assumes control of this government, that goodwill, that confidence has already been gained. And I think it's important, except to say that maybe one of the key things that need to happen, far away from the issues that you're raising, is that perhaps government needs to look very carefully. JOKONYA was talking about, value addition, manufacturing, and so on. I think government needs clarity in terms of its industrial policy. How well polished, how up to date, how sensitive is it to the needs of industry? Does it locate us in areas that are critical in terms of making a difference going forward? And I think that is quite very important.
I'll come back to you on that issue of the industry. But Dr. JOKONYA, if you were you are an industrialist, but if you were based somewhere in Europe, in one of the finance capitals of the world, and you had your suitcase full of US dollars and the euros, and they just booked a ticket to come to Zimbabwe, would you at this moment be saying, maybe because of what has happened, I need to just wait a bit and look at how the politics develop, or would you proceed with your trip?
The quick answer is that I would proceed with my trip. Why? I think making a decision of investing in a particular country is not just an overnight decision. It's something that one will have analyzed over a number of other issues. And I would come. But let me answer a little bit. Why did you ask that question? It's because of what happened immediately after elections. And it was a very unfortunate situation. I want to say that. Because we had the whole international world looking at Zimbabwe. The drive up to elections was excellent. There was no violence, everything, even the voting itself was very peaceful. It was only those who did not win, when they lost, did they go onto the street and try to cause chaos. That is very unfortunate. So to me, what would I like to see in Zimbabwe? I really would like to see a situation whereby the losers and the winners work together for the betterment of our nation. There must not be, because I lost, I must now do harm to the nation. I think that is a very unfortunate situation. We must now come together. Zimbabwe is more important than an individual. And I think that's how we should drive it. So I think genuine investors will be coming. There are many places that are worse than Zimbabwe where investors are investing nearly every day, and they're pouring in more money than they would get in Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe is ideal, is open for business, and I would like to invite investors to come in.
There you have it, the first segment of Economic Forum, where we are looking at the economic situation post the elections. We'll continue with that discussion in the second segment. You want to join us then? It's the second segment of Economic Forum, where this evening we're talking to an industrialist, Dr. CALLISTO Jokonya, and an economic analyst, Dr. DAVISON Gomo. Now, in the first segment, you talked about leadership, and we're looking at this economic situation. Yes, the president will be key, but I suppose critical also for business, Dr. Jokonya, will be certain key cabinet appointments.
We are anxiously, as business, looking up to the president to see who is he going to put into his cabinet. That will help. He has promised us that it's now going to be business and not politics. So in other words, the whole economy now will be driven by business, and then politics follows. And we will be very pleased. And so we are waiting to see what he's going to appoint. But let me say, the last 8 months, he has gained so much confidence in us. We believe he has been a man of his own word. He has performed very well for us. And he has been able to attract international or foreign direct investment from countries that never thought they would like to invest in Zimbabwe. And so we believe he's the right leader for the job. He will be able to fulfill what he promised and get the right caliber of staff to help him.
Dr. Goma, I suppose things such as a leaner cabinet would be a good start?
I don't know about that. Well, as a student of strategy, I know very well that it's very important for you to be clear about what you want to do and what you want to achieve first. And once you're clear about that, you can sort out exactly your implementation strategy, and that is what decides, I guess, the number of people you require to work on what you have at hand. But in general principles, the general belief is that the leaner the cabinet, the better. Even organizations, they've been delayering and getting thinner and thinner because it makes the organization a bit more efficient and effective. True, I don't know, because at end of day, that's our preferred position, but at the end of day, I totally agree with JOKONYA that the president has done well and his de-emphasis on politics. But I'll tell you what, we are in that situation where he appears to be doing everything right because he's gotten his politics right. I don't want to, politics will always be in the background, seriously, except that you don't want it to consume all your time. The truth is that when you don't manage your politics well, even the most brilliant of your economic programs will be scuppered at some point. So yes, if he gets guys who understand politics, who understand business, who understand society, who can speak to young people, who can speak to women, who can speak to all sections of our community, it's going to be important that it be leaner, inclusive, capable, flexible, functional, dynamic, and must just deliver. The short of that, there's no point in repeating what we've done in the past, just having people for the sake of it. And you can see the disappointment amongst our young people, our women, the mainstream society, business, and everyone else. So this president has a task to address the needs of all these different sections of our community simultaneously, unfortunately.
Dr. JOKONYA, he talks about all sections of our community. And in that, I think is a challenge for the new government. Expectations are great.
Well, I think that is true. Expectations are very high. But my take would be everybody must be made to participate in economic development or enterprise development. And I think this is where we need to open up the cake of this nation and treat everyone wherever they are, even the people that are in communal areas, begin to develop business at a local level. Whatever we produce in order to generate revenue and enable us to up the standard of our living. And that also helps. So the government must be able to pull everyone from communal area, from here in cities, and make good use of our resources. Make sure that people in the communal area who only farm for maybe about 5 months in a year must be made to farm 12 months in a year. And the same thing that happens also in town. They must begin to want to know where the resources are and they develop themselves and work. This question of just waking up and looking at other people to generate employment for you must be the thing of the past, because we can do it. A person can start with even less than $100 and start a business and do something with it. In the communal area, they can do gardens, they can do all sorts of things and begin to sell 12 months in a year. What is basically are the resources to be able to do that. I know the government talked about wanting to put irrigation in each and every district of the country. That's a very good move. That's a step in the right direction. And I would say the sooner the better they do that. Make sure even the communal areas are working. The people in the cities, one or the way, they will find that the communal areas are doing so well, they will move back and go and do something if there are no jobs in here. But also enterprise development in our own country, in the cities, needs also to be made a priority and work on that basis and say, what are we going to do here? What can we do? How can we process our resources? So we need technology as well. The relationship that we're having with the international world. Countries like Japan, countries like China, they've got technology which can be used to develop new products within our own country. Products that are then needed in their own countries. Let's engage them on that basis where we can have technology coming into Zimbabwe and not just sending our raw materials out of our country. So there is a vast, creating jobs, 4-5 million can be done in these 5 years that we're looking at. It can be done and it's feasible and it's practical. But we need now to have very key negotiating skills and say, how can we move technology in here? For instance, we can take platinum. Platinum, they make the catalytic converters. We can ask the Japanese or the Chinese who use those catalytic converters making cars, come and put a plant in Zimbabwe, get our platinum, process it, make catalytic converters, and then you can export those ones. You will have created many jobs in the country. And that's what we are looking at as business people.
We are continuing with our discussion on the Zimbabwean economy, and we will do that in the third segment when we return with Dr. CALLISTO JOKONYA, an industrialist, and Dr. DAVISON Gomo, an economist. We look forward to your company.
No my viewers, no public actually.
Welcome to the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we are looking at the Zimbabwe economy post-election with Dr. CALLISTO JOKONYA, an industrialist, and Dr. DAVISON Gomo, an economic analyst. Dr. Gomo, in a very pedestrian way,
Yes.
your first 100 days, if you were the chief executive of Zimbabwe, what would you focus on in the economy?
That's very interesting, and I think CALLISTO would answer that better. But I think obviously one of the most critical things, just listen to the people talking on the streets, in the pubs, at church, at home, and so on. Things that are very, very critical to the public are things that I call the signs of death. Your street lights are not working, the potholes are all over the shore, water is dirty. You heard what happened in Gweru. There are no trains that move properly, there are no buses, young people have no jobs, education has been privatized and is too expensive. University students, they want a lot of support, it's just not there right now. And of course, if you move away from those, yes, we mustn't forget that they are a much older generation that worked yesteryear. The pensions aren't there and they're insufficient, and so on. There's very urgent social things that are a problem. From an economic point of view, you want to bring confidence, seriously. The current issues is problematic with a lot of people. It's well and good to say we've done A, B, C, D. When somebody goes into the bank and they don't get that money, I'm saying it's an issue that requires urgent attention, because people say, I can't get my money. If I use your smart platforms, I must pay 25% or 30%. There's a lot of trading on the streets and so on. These things that people see and experience every day are the ones that require very urgent attention, because their elimination suddenly generates a lot of confidence in the people that things are moving. The investors, yes, the idea of investors wanting to go to see the president when they come in this country, I don't think it's called for. The ministries, the line ministries must take responsibility, of course supported by the Zimbabwe Investment Center. Those things must be clear. If it's about mining, go to the mining ministry, and the mining ministry must provide all the answers on the spot, and people must go away believing that this country is ready and open for business, as he said.
Before I get to you, Dr. Jokonya, I just want to follow up on that. They don't have to go to the president, they must go to the ministers. But the cry in the past has been the multiplicity of ministries
Yes.
that one has to go to finally get to be able to start business. Do you feel that this one-stop shop, we have paid due respect to it, that we are ready to welcome the investors that we are inviting into the country?
If you've got a multiplicity of duplicating ministries, the one-stop shop is a dead duck in water. It doesn't work, is it? Because at the end of the day, they still must refer to a ministry. What's your position? When answers should be coming from there. The best would be to eliminate all duplication as quickly as possible, which is why earlier we spoke about a leaner government. There are certain very related functions at top level that must just be grouped together. And as long as you've got very effective institutional arrangements that are very strong and very focused and they understand what they do, it's got nothing to do with the minister. It's how departments of government are structured and prepared to deal with those very important issues. But remember, while you've got your top national government there, you also have problems that emanate from local government. So the synchronization of all these things so that the investor or anybody who is in business, when they are in contact with government, they must not find any stressing points at all. They are frustrated because this doesn't happen, or they must jump from this is what when we're talking about ease of doing business, which they've been talking about, Zimbabwe is open for business. We need to reform most of these things as quickly as is possible. The idea of structures that are centered on the power of any individual must just go. I think the structures of government, the institutions must be so organized that they deliver efficiently, effectively, on time, with minimum amount of time and money wasted when we can avoid it.
Dr. Jokonya, Dr. Gomo articulated the socio-economic, but from an industrialist point of view, what do you want the new government to do in the first 100 days?
Thank you. We don't want them to come and work for us. We want to be empowered enough to be able to do things. If they would go out there and be able to get us lines of credit, which will be able to help us. But let me start just to cover this 100 days as well. As a chief executive of the country, what are we would like to see in these within the maybe 10 days or 30 days to start with, that the president is going to appoint a competent and a hungry cabinet for success. We want people who wake up every morning motivated to want to go and achieve something today and make sure that the economy ticks. So here's what I'm looking at: a Minister of Finance, Minister of Industry and Enterprise Development. Want somebody who is hungry, really hungry for success, to say, I am going to run, there's no time to sleep, but I want to get something going, so that the industry moves up. So that getting money in the country, lines of credit, are vital for us to get going and expand, and also be able to put new equipment within the industry and begin to produce, fire the industry completely. So to us, that's key. You really want to get that going. And that's what the economic development we're talking about. That's open for business we're talking about. Unless otherwise that is going on, nothing will work. So you start from small and then grow big. We are not going to expect a quick change in the 30 days. But let that happen in 30 days, move to 45 days, move to 80 days, move to 100 days. But there must be workable goals that we can say, this minister has done this minister has done this. One other point that we find in a way a bit frustrating as private sector is that We want to see ministers that are empowered. Not that when we go and talk to and ask for a decision, you are told to come back after 5 or 10 days, as if they don't know what they're supposed to do. That worries us. They must know how to report to the president, but it must be in such a way that they are empowered, they can make decisions, and they are confident in making their decisions. It will help a lot in this economy.
The one thing, Dr. Goma, that we're not talking about the socioeconomic, the strategy for the marginalized groups, the women and the youth.
I think that is quite very important. But what's very, very encouraging is that, as you know, the president has already launched a youth bank and a women's bank. But my take is that those institutions need to be as depoliticized as is possible. There's going to be a lot of work that must be done to understand what the young people are looking for, what sort of set of skills do they have, their entrepreneurial capabilities. When they don't have them and they have interest, there must be a system of developing these young people, mentoring them and making sure that they understand what business is all about. And so for the women as well. I don't think we have sufficient time to go through those things just right now because of the time constraints. But quite frankly, my take is that you can tie that up to enterprise development that Callisto was talking about very, very clearly. And for me, it's not just about creating these cooperatives, very basic ones in our various areas of residence and so on. I think we actually need to look at the economy and say, how can young people contribute in this area, in that area, but by sectors, textiles, for instance, I would say textiles, what can they do in agriculture, what can they do in the beef industry, and intra-African trade, doing business, producing things that go into SADC, into COMESA, starting with those areas, assuming of course our national needs are met. That way you begin to have a group of women and a group of young people that have sustainable businesses that act as demonstration effects for the other young people. But government needs to put a lot of money and a lot of support in that area and not just leave them to their own devices, because the experience of the past has taught us that giving them money and leaving them to their own devices has not produced any results, and we are paying for it.
Dr. DAVISON Goma, an economic analyst, and Dr. CALLISTO Jokonya, an industrialist. Your views certainly, I think, are key takeaways for the new government. And I hope very much that you at home enjoyed this program as much as we did here, this evening's edition of Economic Forum. It was good to have you along.